Ethan Turner was not a believer in ghost stories. He had spent years exploring remote forests, documenting strange but logical phenomena for his online blog. When he heard whispers about the cursed pines, a stretch of dense woodland where people vanished without a trace, he dismissed it as mere superstition. Determined to prove the legend false, he packed his gear and set out alone. The entrance to the forest was unmarked, hidden behind overgrown brush. As Ethan stepped past the threshold, an unsettling silence enveloped him. The air was thick, the towering pines forming an impenetrable canopy. There were no sounds of birds or insects, just an eerie, unnatural stillness. After an hour of trekking, he stumbled upon something peculiar. A ring of stones arranged in a perfect circle, each engraved with strange, archaic symbols. Kneeling down, he traced his fingers over one of them, feeling the rough carvings. A sudden gust of wind rushed through the trees, whispering his name. Ethan froze. The air had been still moments ago. Where had the wind come from? Brushing off the unease, he continued deeper into the woods. As twilight descended, he set up camp near a fallen log, lighting a small fire to keep the encroaching darkness at bay. Shadows flickered across the trees, but something about them felt off, as if they moved independently of the fire's glow. He shook his head, blaming exhaustion, and crawled into his sleeping bag. A snapping twig jolted him awake. His fire had nearly burned out, casting weak, dying embers. Straining his ears, he listened. The rustling came from just beyond the glow. Slowly he reached for his flashlight, flicking it on. A figure stood at the edge of the light. A man, or at least something resembling one. Its skin was ashen, stretched unnaturally over sharp bones. Hollow, sunken eyes stared at him, devoid of any human recognition. Ethan scrambled backward, heart hammering in his chest. The figure took a step forward, and the whispering wind returned, carrying voices overlapping in an eerie chant. He fumbled for his camera, snapping a picture, but as the flash illuminated the figure, it vanished. Gone as if it had never been there. Terror clawed at his mind. He grabbed his pack and flashlight, abandoning his camp as he sprinted back the way he had come. But the path had changed. The trees seemed to have shifted, the landmarks unfamiliar. His compass spun wildly, offering no direction. Then he saw it, his own footprints leading in circles, as if he had been running in loops. A chilling realization sank in. The forest wasn't letting him leave. A distant cry echoed through the trees. It sounded human, desperate. Against his better judgment, he followed the sound, pushing through thick underbrush until he emerged into another clearing. At its center stood an ancient wooden cabin, its roof sagging, windows shattered. The cry came again, from inside. Ethan hesitated before stepping onto the porch. The wood creaked beneath his weight. Pushing the door open, he was met with darkness and the overwhelming scent of decay. His flashlight beam swept across the room, revealing dusty furniture, cobweb-covered shelves, and then the walls. They were covered in names, scratched into the wood with frantic, uneven strokes. At the very bottom, fresh and distinct, was his own name. A cold dread paralyzed him. The air thickened, pressing against his skin. Then, from the corner of the room, a rasping whisper, "Join us!" The door slammed shut. The firelight flickered violently, casting long, twisting shadows. Something moved in the darkness, something crawling toward him. Ethan screamed. Days later, hikers found his abandoned campsite. His camera was discovered lying in the dirt, its lens cracked. The final picture, though distorted, captured a blurred humanoid figure standing at the edge of the trees, its empty eyes locked onto the lens. No trace of Ethan was ever found, and the cursed pines remained as they always were, a silent, watching labyrinth waiting for the next traveler foolish enough to enter.